Look,
for a deal?
if we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will. And I'm not letting that happen.
Is there
If
any-
we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland. And I am not going to let that happen.
Is there any deal they can offer you? You know, like,
Yeah, sure, I'd love to make a deal with them. It's easier.
is
But
it-
one way or the other, we're going to have Greenland.
US President Donald Trump has once again placed Greenland at the center of global attention, repeatedly arguing that the Arctic island is critical to American national security and warning that rivals such as China and Russia could gain a foothold there if Washington does not act. Trump has even suggested that the United States could take Greenland by force from Denmark, a fellow NATO member, a claim that has drawn sharp criticism from European leaders and skepticism from analysts who say the threat is being overstated. Trump recently told reporters that Greenland was covered with Russian and Chinese ships, insisting the US needs the territory to prevent adversaries from dominating the Arctic.
Greenland should make the deal because Greenland does not want to see Russia or China take over. They don't go there. It's very far away from Greenland. And Greenland, basically, their defense is 2 dog sleds. Do you know that? You know what their defense is? 2 dog sleds. In the meantime, you have Russian destroyers and submarines and China destroyers and submarines all over the place. We're not going to let that happen.
In the meantime, are you going
And if it affects NATO, then it affects NATO. But, you know, they need us much more than we need them. I will tell you that right now.
A White House statement later reinforced his position, describing Greenland as a strategic priority and noting that all options, including military force, remain available to the commander-in-chief. Trump has made similar remarks throughout his second term, reviving ideas he first floated in 2019.
Well, that's something that's currently being actively discussed by the president and his national security team. And I would point out that the acquisition of Greenland by the United States is not a new idea. This is something that presidents dating back to the 1800s have said is advantageous for America's national security. The president has been very open and clear with all of you and with the world that he views it in the best interest of the United States to deter Russian and Chinese aggression in the Arctic region. And so that's why his team is currently talking about what a potential purchase would look like. All options are always on the table for President Trump as he examines what's in the best interests of the United States. But I will just say that the president's first option always has been diplomacy. Again, look at Venezuela. He tried ardently to strike a good deal with Nicolas Maduro, and he told him, I will use the United States military and you will not like it if you don't take such a deal.
However, experts argue that China's actual presence in the Arctic, particularly around Greenland, remains limited. Pál Sigurd Hilde of the Norwegian Institute for Defense Studies dismissed claims of Chinese or Russian vessels swarming the island, calling them nonsense. Vessel tracking data from maritime intelligence platforms also show no evidence of Chinese or Russian naval activity near Greenland's coastline. China's involvement in the Arctic, analysts say, is largely indirect and often tied to cooperation with Russia, especially after Moscow's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. China's only realistic route to meaningful Arctic influence goes through Russia, Hilde said, pointing to joint exercises and patrols, including a 2024 bomber mission near Alaska. Beijing also operates a small fleet of icebreakers and Arctic-capable research vessels, which it says are used for scientific exploration, though some experts warn the technology could have dual-use military applications. Helena Legarda of the Mercator Institute for China Studies in Berlin noted that while China's footprint is modest, it does have ambitions. Beijing launched its Polar Silk Road initiative in 2018 as part of the Belt and Road framework, aiming to expand trade routes and scientific presence in the Arctic and eventually become a polar great power by 2030. Chinese companies have invested in Russian liquefied natural gas projects and infrastructure along Russia's northern coast, though similar attempts in Greenland and Europe have faced resistance. Efforts by Chinese-linked firms to acquire assets in Greenland, including an abandoned naval base and mining projects tied to rare earth elements, have largely failed. Greenland's government halted a major mining project at Kvanefjeld in 2021 over environmental concerns, while another deposit was sold to a US-based firm in 2024 following American lobbying. Trump's focus on Greenland is driven by geography and resources. The island offers the shortest military route between North America and Europe and hosts a US base crucial for missile early warning systems. It also holds vast reserves of critical minerals used in defense and high-tech industries. As Arctic ice melts, new shipping lanes like Russia's Northern Sea Route could reshape global trade, reducing transit times between Asia and Europe, a development China views as strategically valuable. Denmark and Greenland have firmly rejected Trump's assertions. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said there was no sense in discussing a US takeover, while Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen stressed that relations must be based on international law and mutual respect.
First and foremost, I believe that we must take the American president seriously when he states his desire for Greenland, but I also want to make it absolutely clear that if the United States chooses to militarily attack another NATO country, then everything will cease to exist, including our NATO alliance and consequently the security that has been established since the conclusion of the Second World War.
But is there a small part of you that thinks everything could end with this president?
I am doing everything I can for the opposite. I believe in democracy and I believe in the international rules of the game. I also believe, of course, that borders should not be changed by force, neither in one way nor the other. This is not only the position of Denmark and the Danish realm. Fortunately, it is also Europe's, and therefore I also hope that people will take note of the again significant European support we are receiving. I agree that it is important that there is security, peace and safety in the Arctic region. That is, after all, one of the reasons why we are members of NATO. Greenland is also a member of NATO. It is a shared responsibility for the Arctic states, including the kingdom, to ensure that there is security, peace and freedom in the Arctic region. But Denmark has always been a good ally to the USA. That is precisely what we intend to remain. However, I also find it necessary to strongly object to some of the remarks coming from the American side. And naturally, we will not tolerate a situation where both we and Greenland are threatened in this particular way.
Analysts warn that aggressive rhetoric risks straining NATO unity at a time when Arctic competition is intensifying but remains far from the scenario Trump has described.